If I started learning something new, I just collect it and use it. That's all my sound parts were. My way of studying. This is about my history. This is about legacy.
How do you think about new project rollout strategies? Okay, I can talk about this one. So I can answer this question. So I hilariously enough had a rollout a couple years ago for a record. I'm not really much of a fan of long album rollouts anymore. I really don't like the concept of it. I just like, if you're gonna give me an album, give me an album. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't wait. Like, drop it and let me be with it. But yeah, I feel like when it comes to album rollouts, my perspective when it comes to album rollouts are, you now have a chance when you create a body of work. Let's say you went through the whole period of releasing, well, not period, but the whole period of basically creating music that is now allotted to this space. And so now you have a chance to essentially provide people the visual aesthetic of what you want people to not only just experience when you drop something, but what is the bigger picture here that you want to convey? And I remember when Don't Force the Funk was a thing and I did The Funk Will Prevail. I'll never forget that I was wearing this gold frame glasses for a bit. I was wearing the hair pick. I was wearing the neutral colors with the different sneakers in every video. The lighting was very moody. My branding at that time was purely to talk about and showcase my ability of understanding aesthetics and what I really enjoyed. And what I really enjoyed is really making moody, really, really moody aesthetics. I was like so into really moody films at the time. I was so into moody things, just darker colors, darker tones. Even the music and the aesthetic that I was going for at the time was just very moody and aesthetic. And so I think at that period of the time, I was just aware of what I liked. And so whatever I liked at that time when I did The Funk Will Prevail became the rollout. And it was hilarious that I didn't realize it could be a rollout until I told myself, why don't I drop a project? And I'll never forget the name of the project hit me when I was in a hot spring in New Mexico. And so the name of the project, I remember I told my homies, I was like, I want the name of the album to be The Funk Will Prevail. And they were like, yo, that's fire. And so I went through this whole period of just like figuring out, what does that mean to me? What does that mean? And then Don't Force the Funk popped up. Now, what's crazy is looking back at it 2 years later, I realized what I realized about that rollout was that I was very sure about what I wanted to say. I was standing 10 toes on it. And what was great about it was like a new crown, like a crown that, and this is something that I usually do and try to associate with anything I release. Anytime y'all see me dressing a certain way, talking a certain way, maneuvering a certain way on my socials, the videos, if I look a certain way, just know I'm about to potentially drop a project. And so my whole thing is every 2 years I drop something. Right? That's always been a thing. And so every 2 years, it should just be a change. So my strategy for that is take what you've learned, take what you acknowledge about yourself, and give people a visual hook that allows people to not only just that's you, that's your thing, that's your identity, but it's something that can really be associated with your branding. And what I like allotted to my branding at the time was this really nerdy Black man, young guy who was making beats and just looked really, really cool doing it. And when I dropped the project, it was all independent, by the way. There was no label supporting that. I pretty straightforward with it. utilize what I was making from the sound packs when I was dropping those sound packs early on in 2020, 2021, 2022. I was saving that to be able to accomplish having a listening party, traveling, making merch. I made like a really small merch run for that listening party. I never dropped the Funk Will Prevail merch at that time. I think I only just had Don't Force the Funk. But yeah, man, that was a crazy period, crazy time. And I would highly suggest you to write down what you like to look at, and see what it pertains to you. And even right now, I'm undergoing a rebranding process. So who knows? But yeah, I hope that makes sense, bro. Yeah. So yeah, good. That's a good strategy. My boy Scoochie says, if you're about to put out your first project today with all you know about how to branding and content strategy, what would be your biggest priority? I think what I would prioritize, if we're not talking about the music and we're not talking about, I would find something that I think is really important when it comes to rolling out a project is, what do you stand for? Right? Like, what is it that you stand for? And I think more than what people are going to grasp from what they hear on that project, whatever they grasp off of the album, whatever they grasp off of the intricacies of your musicality, there's going to be something that people need to walk away from, because what people will remember is how you made them feel. I'm going to say that twice. People will only remember how you made them feel. So if I were to roll out a project today, I would find something that I'm very passionate about, stand 10 toes on that thing, and find a way to represent it, whether it is something that I wear, whether it is something that I look like, whether it is something artsy or something like that. I would go all in. I wouldn't just be like, oh, here's a cover, no. I would do everything in my God-given ability and power to give you guys not only just a drop of the century, but it's like, oh my God, did he just blow up a house? Like, not saying to blow up a house. I'm not telling y'all to do that. Don't blow up any houses. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be something that's like, it hooks you into this world that you're about to experience. And yeah, I've been tooling around with it. Man. Yeah. Crash X Fleet says, is it the same with releasing unreleased music that's just a snippet? I mean, it depends on how much you value that unreleased joint. You know, if you value it very high, you won't just, I think the last thing you would want to do is just put out a song and let it just be that. I think there's people, you know, after a while, I think there's people that, you know, have done it for so long that they could just drop a song and that's it. Like Frank Ocean can do that, right? But he's allotted years and years and years and years and years of releasing great music. And then he doesn't release music at all. And he can come back and just be like, boom. But that's the kind of thing he's created. He's created a large repertoire of it. He could come out of the blue and just be like, Frank Ocean can literally tomorrow morning be like, Teal out now. And the whole internet will go crazy because of the fact that he's like, you know, he just dropped. But I have a lot of unreleased songs, so that's why I asked. I think you should holding on to it doesn't serve anybody. But what I will say is, if you do feel the desire to go beyond your comfort zone and try something different, taking something unreleased and giving it a visual freshness. By the way, I did listen to that joint you tagged me in, Crash. It sounds amazing. Crash, Cinto, and Ciano dropped something today on their socials, and they all sound incredible. My boy Scoochie says building an aesthetic is like a whole other artistic skill to grow. You know, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know I could go on for a hot minute about this, but building an aesthetic is a whole skill, but it's not that different than us making music. Ultimately, when we like think about it like this, right? I'm gonna give you the ultimate cheat code. You ready for this? I want you to pay attention to a few things on how to build an aesthetic and create an artistic skill. Now, I have no ability of how to draw. I mean, I can draw a little bit. I can draw repetitive shapes and everything, but I really am not good at drawing. And I'll tell you exactly why. I've never had the patience growing up of getting past my own handwriting to think, can I possibly draw something that is meaningful, that is, dope. So I've always been attracted to things that were not perfect when it came to art. And one of my favorite artists that I discovered back in like 2007, 2006 was Wassily Kandinsky. Why do I bring up Wassily Kandinsky? Wassily Kandinsky was a painter from the 1920s, and he used to just paint abstract circles, lines, and shapes, like geometric shapes that were like not cohesively perfect on a whole canvas. But I felt like looking at it, it perfectly described how my music was. I'll give you an example of this. Wassily Kandinsky, he has this joint, several circles. I feel like this perfectly describes my musical style. This right here, I feel like this perfectly describes it. This perfectly describes how my music looks. You got this big old circle, a black canvas, which is basically space, but you see all these circles that kind of like, they just kind of like perfectly represent all the different nuances of how random and sporadic, but they all kind of work together, And so ever since I looked at this painting, I remember thinking early on, how can I find more? And so I found out that this gentleman, Wassily Kandinsky, he made more paintings like this. So I looked up his name, Wassily Kandinsky. He has so many different compositions, and I'm like, why is this hitting? Why is this hit? Until I started to look up his inspirations. And you guys are gonna love this. Wassily Kandinsky and jazz. Check this out. What music influenced Kandinsky? Famous Viennese composer Arnold, I don't want to mess that name up, Schoenberg, was one influence. Schoenberg abandoned tonal and harmonic inventions in his compositions the same way that Kandinsky rejected the figure or recognizable object in favor of objects, lines, and discordant colors in his work. And what's funny is there's so many musicians that are all, Zebra 6, you see the vision. So my project like this, pretty much everything I've ever dropped has a Wassily Kandinsky energy to it. If you look at all of my album covers, they all do the same kind of like cohesive but separated thing. And so if you want to build an aesthetic, it requires you to find things that you're very attracted to, aka let's say it be a Wassily Kandinsky painting, and you look up more things that are associated to that painting. And before you know it, what you will like will start to manifest itself in real time. And I'm not saying that because mind you, I've never drawn really like an album cover before. I've taken pictures. I know where I want the spaces to kind of be, but I know ever since I looked at that Wassily Kandinsky painting very early on, I realized that perfectly embodies how I feel. And it's actually interesting because he has a great, relationship with music. There's a spiritual component. And yeah, that's how I would recommend building aesthetics. Things that you like. I got heavy into Kanye when I was in high school. The Yeezus era, that minimalism. Didn't know Virgil Abloh was behind that. Virgil Abloh is what inspired Don't Force the Funk. Like that, there's all these associations come together, They all come together and represent something that's far bigger. And so making an aesthetic, take what you like and just start learning about it. And before you know it, the patterns will start to pop up. Let's see here. Ronnie Barr says, I drew myself as a character from the Boondocks. My boy Scoochie says, things that inspire me right now, You Are Here to Start. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like, now don't get me wrong, I love You Are Here to Start. I will say though, I wish when I made that project that I was more tuned in to not just the aesthetic that I created at that time, but I feel like I should have leaned in even more than I did. And so yeah, that was an incredible project that came together in literally the same time frame as the Funk Will Prevail. Like all these ideas come from the same vein. And as well as you start to make more art, or not only just make art, but if you want to build an aesthetic, take the things that you've learned from each project and just slowly integrate them into what you're doing. And before you'll know it, you'll start to create your own cohesive language, And so, yeah, I've always been thinking about, like, whenever I make something, lean in more like promo posts and stuff. Not just promo posts. I think the promo post is the vehicle, right? The promo post and what you release is the vehicle. But when you release something, you have to ask the question, what is what I'm putting out about to do? Is this about to bring awareness? Is this going to make people excited? Is this going to make people want to buy in? Like, how can we do it? And I'm even speaking to my own self about this because I'm about to embark on something really crazy over the next couple months. And I know, like, I don't know really what it is, but I know I've started to slowly figure out what I desire and what I like and what I'm into now. And yeah, I just always felt like when it comes to promoting, and I'll even use this as an example, right? Matter of fact, I'll use this as an example. I'm going to pull up something real quick. Michael Jordan to the max. I was talking to a buddy of mine about this documentary, and I realized this was actually probably the best representation I've ever seen of the greatest basketball player ever, aka Michael Jordan. And so Michael Jordan, back in the year 2000, had a documentary called Michael Jordan to the Max. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of it, but Michael Jordan to the Max was a IMAX documentary. They had footage, and this is the craziest thing ever. They had footage of Michael Jordan in 4K playing his final years with the Chicago Bulls. So the same year that he won that last 6 championship, there's 4K footage caught of him playing the game. And not only did they play the game, they got a video. They got a video of Michael Jordan dunking the ball, but there's a 360 video of, like, capturing Michael Jordan as a young kid seeing MJ. And this is before he retired, by the way. This is right before he retired. They're like, yo, Mike, I know you watch this. Just watch this. Yeah, they did it like the Matrix. Watch. Bro. dunked the ball and the camera did a whole swoop. This is right before he retired too. I had never seen anything more cool than that in my life. It made me excited to learn about Michael Jordan. I had the books. I had the posters. I had like a really fake jersey, okay? I had a really terrible fake jersey back in the day. But small things like that make you realize that what we're promoting is bigger than just the thing we're talking about. I'm gonna say that again. When we promote our art, right? Even though you don't have to be a big artist to do this, you could be a big artist, a small artist, whatever. You have to make people feel like they are about to experience the greatest version of whatever you have. That is the goal when it comes to promo. And I'll say this, the biggest commotion, the biggest connection with the community, and the people that talk a lot are usually the ones that win the whole thing. And it doesn't require a big budget. It doesn't require a lot of money. Shoot, it doesn't even require a mad amount of tools. What you really need is to think very deeply about the experience that you want people to experience coming out of what you just gave them. Do you want people to be shocked? Do you want people to be amazed? Do you want people to cry? Do you want people to dance? You should be inviting people into an experience when you promote your work, not just tell them the song is coming out. Thank y'all for streaming the music. Cool. Like, bruh, try and tell that to great grandma who was back in the 80s watching Michael Jackson, Prince, and all them. They were going in, given that they were with labels or and whatnot, but like you knew if their name popped up in a conversation, it was going to be an experience. So just think about that when you promote your art. And so yeah, that's what literally I would say. Hope that answers your question.